Hello everybody, how you doing? It's Eric here, and today we're going to talk about one of my favourite Pokemon games ever. That's right, one where you play as a wizard, meet up with some sky pirates, and to top that off, your best friend is a fairy who looks like a potato with a nose. That's right, Ni No Kuni, the Wrath of the White Witch, is on its way to Nintendo Switch and PS4 and PC in a remastered version. And today, I want to talk about that, as well as this other little bit of news that came out about Ni No Kuni 3 is apparently on the way. Now, in case you can't tell, I am very excited for this game. There's a good reason for that. Well, it's one of my favourite games of all time. There was a small period of my life where I said this was my favourite game. And then I went back to saying it's Paper Mario 1000 Year Door, but there was a small period. And I'm so happy to finally see this game return home. And yeah, I mean return home, because you might not know this, but the original Ni No Kuni, the one we call the Wrath of the White Witch, was actually an enhanced version of a DS game called The Domain of the Dark Djinn, or Ni No Kuni, The Domain of the Dark Djinn. Hold on a sec. What I hold here in my hot little hands is Ni No Kuni, The Domain of the Dark Djinn. I had a friend that went over to Japan and was lucky enough to pick this up for me. Fantastic little box. It comes in such a big box because it had other cool wizard companion-y type stuff that you would see on my back shelf back there. But it's something that I kind of treasure because it was a game that was really special to me.
Do be careful out there now, won't you?
So yeah, we're getting Ni No Kuni, The Wrath of the White Witch, the enhanced version of that game, on the Switch. But there's one thing here that we just need to note, and that is, as I mentioned before, it's coming to PS4 and PC in a remastered version. So the one that we're getting on the Switch is more of a straight port from the PS3 to the Switch. It's going to run at 720p and 30 frames per second. If you were to get it on the PS4 or PC, you're going to get the 1080p experience with 60 frames per second. Which means that's one of those things you're going to have to toss around in that little head of yours and go, which version do I want, if you own multiple consoles that is, and decide from there. I run a Nintendo channel called Nintendo by Numbers. I think you know which version I'll be getting, but make up your own little mind. Little mind. Wow, that's offensive. Make up your own big brain. Now, I mentioned Ni No Kuni 3, the number 3, the next game in the series, a little bit earlier. And the reason I want to touch on that today is that I believe Switch owners have a good reason to be excited here. You see, Ni No Kuni 3, well, it was most likely going to be like on a next-gen console, if not like a really late PS4 game or something like that. However, now I've kind of on the mindset that, well, if they're not afraid to put number 1 with a graphical difference between the PS4 and Switch, then maybe they're not afraid to do the same with the next game in the series. Say, here it is on the Switch and it's whatever graphical form it's in, and here it is on next gen or whatever. And to get one more push in the back of my point here in the right direction, I believe another reason we could see on the Switch is because targeting next gen with a game like this doesn't seem like the smartest move right from the start, when the console install base is so small. Compared to having a Switch audience which is growing and huge at the moment, it would make sense for them to want to try target both if they could. So fingers crossed, as tight as they can get, that this does make its way over to the Switch, but it's going to be one of those old wait and see games that we love playing so much here. Oh, and one last point here on that, I believe that it's possible we could see number 2 head over as well. I mean, we're getting Witch on the Switch, kind of nothing's off the bounds now, but it's quite possible they could say, let's get the 2 over there as well if number 1 does really well. Now that we've got down to business and the business talk is out the back door, we get to have a little fun and I get to tell you why I personally am in love with this game. The game actually came to me at a time where I was just not into RPGs, as I had been in a long time, and I didn't think anything could rekindle that love that I had for like Super Nintendo RPGs, or even some that hit the GameCube like Tales of Symphonia. And then a game like this came along, and it was something special. It was something that reminded me of the old and still brought with it the new. And man, did it take me on an adventure. Just the beautiful animated cutscenes from Studio Ghibli alone were enough to make me drool at the mouth over this game. And those animated cutscenes right there were really one of the biggest contributing factors that just brought this game to life and really injected something into it. Something that really captured everyone when they saw it from the first word go, and then dragged you through the story as you were kind of almost like experiencing a Studio Ghibli film, but being there in RPG form. And then we have to talk about this story, because the story is something really special. It could easily be wrapped up in like a Pokemon story, but this, right from the word go, just hits home with some heavy notes. The game jumps in with this emotional rawness of a child losing one of his parents, and then somehow it manages to tie that with a fantasy adventure that's lighthearted. And I don't know how it does it so well, but the two just blend together really well. And I really do think that's kind of down to the writing and the characters that they managed just to infuse into this game. Like, they have this side character, this fairy that I mentioned before that looks like a potato, that comes along on your journey. And this guy has this, I believe it's a Welsh accent. I don't know accents very well.
Spoiling for a fight, is it? Better give him what he wants, Ollie boy.
Huh? But what do I do?
Just think what you want him to do and he'll do it. It's as easy as falling off a log, man.
He's almost like this comedy relief character that brings in the lightheartedness when it needs to be there, but still doesn't detract when it's not. And because it's set in a fantasy world, and they're really not afraid to say, we're a fantasy world, jump on in, you get these characters like this giant cat who has a literal giant rat problem in the city that you have to go sort out. I mentioned a little while ago now that it kind of feels very old school still in its design. And the reason I say that is it's very much like you have an overworld map that you're going to go explore, and then you're going to go find dungeons and towns off of that overworld map. When you go into a dungeon, it's very much corridor based. You're going to be walking through corridors, and at the end of a corridor, if you take a side path, it's probably going to lead to a chest. I mean, some of that is just kind of your typical RPG stuff, but it still feels like it's getting a Super Nintendo cord, wrapping it around your chest, and then dragging you back to the Super Nintendo era. So what about the Pokemon aspect of this game? Because I compared it to, well, a Pokemon type adventure earlier, and there's a good reason for that. That is because it very much is so. As far as like, you gotta catch them all as you're running around the map and you're defeating monsters, you can catch every monster apart from like bosses and stuff that you're defeating. It can be annoying that you have a percentage chance of every monster you defeat to actually have it come up that you can capture it. So like it can be anywhere from 4 to like 12% or something like that, and you can just be battling away just hoping for that chance to come up. But it's still really fun trying to capture all the monsters in this. And what I found made it even funner for me is the battle system. It's not like a Pokemon battle system where it's turn-based. They are going to be on the map and you're going to actually summon these creatures out to fight for you. It's not as interactive as you might think, like an action game or something like that, but it still has that kind of impact element that I felt like I was impacting battles and had to pay attention, not just select from a list of moves every now and then. Though I was selecting from a list of attack defenders' moves every now and then. Just to slide our way a little bit deeper into the battle system here, you obviously have your main character, which is Ollie Boy, and then you have 2 other characters that you battle with while you're in the battle. And each one of you is either battling as yourself, so you can actually battle with Ollie, except he's mostly good there for spells every now and then, and not really that useful in battle. His spells are strong though, trust me, they're strong. And then each one of you will have 3 familiars that you would kind of choose from and throw out into the battle and swap between depending on the situation, and then you've got to choose between like attack, defense, and it gets deeper and deeper, but I don't want to go any deeper, so just know it's fun and I love it. Mostly. Alright guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you for tuning in and just say that I have actually started a new podcast, so if you're interested in hearing me talk more about this and other games in general and Nintendo news, whatever's going on, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, Nintendo by Numbers, you'll find it. And I think I have a link down below somewhere. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with videos like this that are coming out all the time. Alright, thanks guys, and remember, for great Nintendo entertainment, you can count on me.